Right, so the only way to really dissect this one is by doing what we've done previously. So prelude video and show the Wikipedia pages and then break it down from there. The points I want to make on this particular case are that he is from the Bronx. I don't know his route of direction, but I'm assuming if he's going to take the most direct route, according to this, at that particular time it was busy as hell, so it would have took him between half an hour and an hour to get to where he was seen in the first CCTV camera. I mean, ultimately I don't want to go too much into detail about the CCTV footage first, because that's going to need its whole section to itself that we can break that down. So what we just need to look at is just the narrative to start with. So as I say, he's made this particular journey half an hour to an hour, but we understand that he was smoking synthetic marijuana, which is supposedly 100 times more potent, and it was laced with PCP. Now, how can this guy be functioning perfectly fine leading right up to doing this U-turn? And that for me just seems to be an odd thing to this, because ultimately if he's out of his mind on drugs, he could have done this anywhere, and instead it's not. It's the fact that it's dead centre of Times Square. It's almost more calculated than it is just on a whim. I mean, there's plenty of videos out there showing the effects of these particular drugs. K2 on its own will turn you into a complete zombie and you wouldn't have been able to function driving a vehicle, but then lace it with PCP and it gives you sort of superhuman strength, as some people describe, but then they're completely erratic. So could he have driven the way he had perfectly fine, and like I say, in a more calculated manner whilst high on drugs? And I just can't see that just somehow. But in my very first videos, I pointed out that the biggest thing that stood out for me was this particular photograph, and I'm sorry to keep going on about it, but it is very important. Now, whilst I've gone to bed and woke up this morning, I've noticed that Russian Vids has already started talking about this particular person, but he's missed off a couple of bits that I was wanting to point out. So this guy, Charles Guerin, is the photographer who took this particular picture. As I've mentioned in previous videos, he's a professional photographer for, he's either freelance for various different celebrity photograph agencies, or he works for them directly. But either way, just like Toby Melville for Westminster, for the fella that was in Nice, for Ketavan in Brussels, you know, they're there on the spot. So what I wanted to do is, we're obviously going to see him in the CCTV footage at the end taking the pictures, but I've managed to find a couple of news articles, so we'll of course review them. But one thing I just wanted to point out is that I've been trying to track this guy down and he seems to be a complete ghost. He's supposed to be a French fella who lives in Brooklyn, and when you search for him to do with anything to do with photography, his name crops up as being mentioned in the particular pictures that he's taken, but I can't find anything to do with him personally. And the only thing I could find is one particular Facebook page that says his name and photography, but this person has actually put a post on there to say that he is not that person and that he in fact lives in France. So are we even looking at a guy who this isn't really his name? Is it just like a fake name that he uses for the sake of photography? Because ultimately, if he's paparazzi, which based on the photographs I've seen he is, maybe he wants to keep his real identity secret. I don't know, but the fact that you can't find him on Twitter, you can't find him on Facebook, there's no company for him, he's just, like I say, he's a bit of a ghost, is an issue for me. But as I say, he's done a couple of news articles, so here they are. So there's that photograph again, which I'm sure if this was in Brussels they'd describe it as being iconic, which is kind of what it is. But you can see that these photographs that have been taken are accredited to him. So this in itself shows that he was on the scene and he stuck around on the scene as well in order to take these photographs. Now when you read this particular article, in the interview the photographer has said that he didn't realise that the guy jumping up and down was the one who's caused this crash. He's put here that he thought that the driver was still in the car. I mean, it says there, the perfectly composed image looks like a still frame from an action movie. Now, we've said before that whenever you see that, it's for a particular reason. And in this particular article, it says as to why he was there. He just happened to be in the area at the time, according to this particular article. But the next one that we're going to look at is a little more detailed, but is contradictory to not only this article, but what is seen in the CCTV footage. So here's the other news article, and the video at the top has nothing to do with the photographer, but as you scroll down you'll see the story to do with the photographer in this case. And in this one it says that he was making his daily trip through Times Square just before noon. Now it says he makes his daily trip, well in the other one he just so happened to be in the area, whereas this is suggesting he's always in the area. It confirms that he is a celebrity photographer. He assumed that the driver was still in a vehicle, but he says here it wasn't until 20 minutes later that when he looked at his photographs on the computer that he'd in fact took the pictures of the actual guy who's caused this. Now given the pictures that we've seen, the photographs are quite clearly focused on this guy. He is in the foreground of all the pictures, and not only that, he's then gone on to take pictures of him being arrested. So how could he turn around and say that he didn't know he was taking pictures of this guy and that he was the one who caused it until he got back home onto his computer, when he stuck around to take pictures of the fella being arrested, and as if he wouldn't check his pictures on the scene as well in order to see what kind of pictures he took. And that, like I say, is just totally contradictory. So the photographer goes on to say that he started taking pictures the moment that he saw Richard step out of his car, and he realised that there had been an incident because of the person on the floor. Now it's mentioned in the Nice attack, which is important because it's got to remind you about terror and things like that, and because this guy is from France, it links those things together. But just like the guy that was in Nice taking the photographs, this guy as well has gone and just took out his camera rather than actually helping anybody. So he says here that he's taking pictures of a guy on the floor, which is inconsiderate to someone who's been involved in an incident, and then he's just saying that he wasn't afraid the whole time because he was doing his job. Well, his job was to take pictures of this for the sake of the newspapers. So as I say, I can't seem to find any particular pictures of this photographer for the reasons I mentioned earlier. So how do these articles compare to the CCTV footage that we've been given? So what you're going to see is the photographer coming from behind the fire engine and then walking out into the middle of the road, takes his pictures and then walks off to the right of this particular frame. Now unfortunately, because this is the only piece of footage that we've got showing this, we can't see him walking back towards where the fella has been arrested in order to see how he managed to take certain pictures, because the certain pictures that he took that almost look staged, at the end of the day they've cordoned off this area really quickly, but they allowed him to stay to take pictures like this. And I can bet you anything, if you tried to go to a crime scene and try and take pictures of things up close, the police will try and get in your face and try and move your camera away, because it's almost like disturbing the peace, so to speak. They don't want pictures like this going out there when it's a legitimate crime, but this particular one is for the purpose of being circulated. So anyway, let's watch this footage through and compare what his actions are in comparison to what he said in his interview. So when this video freezes, it's out as the position I believe that the photographer actually takes his first photograph, because it's a clear shot of the guy jumping out where it says suspect, and then he takes a few more photos as he's jumping up and down, and then he runs off to the right, as you can see there. The next clip is a little clearer and I've zoomed in, but you can see that he's running alongside the guy with the earpiece, the white hair, the blue shirt and blue jeans, and again you can see that as soon as he gets past that car he takes his pictures, gets a few more, and then he runs off. He knows exactly what he's looking at. He's looking at the guy jumping up and down because he is the focus of the scene. So if anyone does manage to find anything more on this particular photographer, drop me a comment because I'd be interested to know. So yeah, we'll carry on dissecting this one, so thanks very much for watching.